Good evening and a warm welcome to Big Budget Business, where we highlight prolific individuals who are making strides in their respective fields. Now today we are speaking to international development consultant Kaene Disepo. Kaene, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Wow, it's a pleasure, it's a pleasure.
It really is, and it's a long one in the waiting.
Oh, definitely, definitely. How long has it been? Like, I've wanted you here since December.
Since December.
Wow.
Yeah, and then we'll just blame it on COVID.
Exactly, but because you have a story to tell, and I think it's quite profound. But what we'll start with a background story. Okay. Tell us about Kaene Disepo, the individual.
Yeah.
Who is Kaene? What's up?
Well, you know, I like saying I'm an only child.
Okay.
From Solwane, that's where my mom is from, and then I'm from Maung as well.
Okay.
So I go Kutswing Lobrot.
Okay.
But just growing up, to a teacher and a retired soldier, I think it's just a classic upbringing, right? I aspired to be somebody a lot bigger than what was in my surrounding. Okay. Unfortunately, from my mom's side, we even from my dad's extended family, we come from humble beginnings, right? So the two of them were like the successors of their families. So all I was exposed to is the socialized way of thinking that actually once you finish school, be a teacher, be an engineer, do medicine and so on. And I think for me, I finished being recognized as the top achiever.
Wow.
And what was interesting about that is back when I was 15, my parents separated. And I had to finish my BGCSE exam, living in one of the poorest neighborhoods in the country, in Gaborone, which is Babusi.
Okay.
And I was staying in a one room, and that one room was my 4-in-1. It was my bedroom, my bathroom, my living room, my kitchen. Wow. And that's where I think I found a source of my inspiration. I strived to live a life better. And I remember at one point my aunt would say, make sure that you own a tuck shop. So that you can be kind of like the success now. And it was unfortunate because we were living in an area where across the road, it was a mall famously known for one person, and to me it was like, there's a huge disconnect. Why is it that my family, so lovingly so, they want me to own a tuck shop whilst we're buying bread, we're buying groceries at a mall that's known over one person? Do you get what I mean?
Yes.
And I think that's where I just had an epiphany. So I did my grades, and lo and behold, I was recognized as top achiever, where I was given the top achiever scholarship program. Wow. I went to study abroad. My parents, especially my mom, she didn't want me to do international relations.
Okay.
And I think it was the typical kind of like, family where you got all A stars, make sure you do science, medicine.
Become a doctor.
Yeah, become a doctor. And what is international relations? But for me, I aspired to give back to my community because I saw that we have a lot of talent. We have a lot of incredibly skilled young people. Wow. And unfortunately, they don't have a platform for them to shine. So being, an aspiring diplomat, for me, it was a way of ensuring that we're able to give back. I'm able to amplify the voices of so many that are marginalized. So I finished my foundation at Cardiff. I did my degree at the London School of Economics and Political Science. Where I did my BSc in International Relations and my Master's in Development Management. Wow. And then here we are.
Oh, that's great. Quite a rich background that you're talking about there, in terms of being inspired to looking at the mall and having to open, because everyone was encouraging you to open the tuck shop, but you saw bigger because you said, okay, there's a mall here, and it's named after one individual. Why can't that be me?
Why can't that be me?
That type of thing.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. And I see there's a lot of family influence, and that's an important factor, the support that family has for an individual. I think now let's talk about your work as a leadership and development consultant. What's that all about, and how did you get to this point?
Well, like I mentioned, I have a strong passion for giving back. And I think it was because when I grew up, I saw that my family didn't have. Okay. But one thing that was quite evident was the strong family bond. There was so much love, and in extended families, the typical Jabong kind of like clans, right? So I first, when I was abroad, when I was doing my work experiences, I actually had my first work experience at the United Nations in Switzerland.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
In Switzerland.
And I was 18 years old, know.
So that is amazing.
Thank you so much. Wow. And it was an incredible experience. I got to be exposed to the different ways that you can strengthen regional integration, that you can strengthen multi-sectoral linkages, and just how different development actors operate.
Yes.
And for me, it was on how can we take this back home.
Okay.
So I then started doing a lot of international relations work experiences, where I was humbled to be the first Motswana to work as the communications lead for United Nations Association UK. And this was the body that was responsible for actually championing the first ever Secretary General debate, in the history of the United Nations.
That is
and I think over time, I got to be exposed to different individuals, different organizations, where now I get to bring back those kind of experiences. But just because you are born local doesn't necessarily mean that you're limited, right? Yes. I think the world is your oyster.
Absolutely.
And then the international community started recognizing my talent. Then I got to be outsourced for thought leadership.
Okay.
So my passion is actually on thought leadership and education.
Wow. You know what? Now that you speak about passion, my next question was really going to be related to that. But just to highlight some of the aspects that you mentioned, I think what you said there was that exposure.
Yes.
It helps a lot.
It does.
As a young person, if there are opportunities for you to go out and do something and learn other things, take them.
Absolutely.
Because it can help mold you to become something better, and then come and implement better aspects.
And be unapologetic.
Yes.
Look, it was difficult for me. I'm an only child. It was difficult for me to disappoint my parents when they say do not do international relations because that's politics, right? Yeah. But because I knew what I wanted, and I was putting in the research and making sure that I was well informed about my career options, right? I then had to respectfully decline their wishes. But now it's like the best thing that I would have ever done.
And I'm sure they appreciate it.
Now
too.
They do, and now they're telling me, why are you still in the country?
Why are you still exactly? Why?
Yes, so it's amazing. Yeah.
Wow. Wow, and so my next question to you was going to be, what are the issues that you would say are closest to your heart, and why?
So, I mean, first and foremost, education is one that's absolutely important to me.
Okay.
Only because it was through education that I escaped a lot of the clutches that I found in society, right? Where I got to be well informed. So making sure that I improve access to quality education has been absolutely instrumental. Whenever I was abroad, I was doing so many work experiences. I was attending so many seminars, and I think to date, I've attended over 30 global seminars in over 30 countries.
30?
And I'm still under the age of 30.
Oh,
so just to put that out there. But again, it was through education. So what was important to me is to see how in Botswana we can actually bridge the growing structural inequalities that exist within the education sector, where we're having graduates who finish with, let's say, a first class, but they're still unemployable. They don't even know the basic entrepreneurial skills. They don't even know how to be self-sustainable, and self-reliant. So that clearly shows that we need to bridge the international divide that we're seeing in education, right? So that's something which is absolutely important to me. Second is on gender equality and women's empowerment, where it's really quite rooted in so many, and I think often at times we don't really understand what gender complexities are. The privileges that one is afforded just by, virtue of being a man or by virtue of being a woman. Whilst in reality, when we think about it, it's not that being a woman or being a man is something which is innate, natural. Actually, one becomes one because of the society, societal expectations,
norms,
and absolutely. So I think for me, it's really about making sure that we're creating that awareness to society to ensure that, look, equality in itself is rooted in this, which is why a number of my projects that are intended to actually uplift, empower, and increase inclusion of meaningful participation of both boys and girls into various decision-making processes.
Leaving no one behind.
Absolutely. Yeah, quite rooted in that.
Okay, that's great. Very interesting. So you're doing some interesting work there. Ladies and gentlemen, we are speaking to international development consultant Kaene Disepo, and he's telling us a bit about his background and the work that he does in terms of uplifting, enriching the lives of society, and he's doing quite commendable work. Let's talk about Inspired Horizons Association. What exactly is that organization and what does it do?
So Inspired Horizons Association it's about a decade-long project of mine.
Wow.
Where officially we started in 2019. So it's a registered society, NGO in Botswana. But it actually predates that in terms of the ideas.
Yes, of course.
As I've mentioned, my passion has been on improving access to quality education and then as well as issues of thought leadership, right? For me, it was the question of what does it actually take to create, mold, and develop a 21st century leader of value. And in essence, that's what Inspired Horizons aims to do. We're focusing on making sure that we generate well-informed, aspiring young leaders. We focus on making sure that we're creating valuable leaders, not just successful leaders in the community, but valuable leaders into the community. And most importantly, we focus on ensuring that they're healthy. So we have a healthy, we have a health and advocacy component. We have an education component, which in 2019, just before COVID, we brought the country's first ever International Universities Career Fair. And this is where we prioritize in bringing the top universities in the top 20% around the world to Botswana. And what's amazing is that we started the organization when I came back. So that was in February 2019, and already by September we brought 23 universities in Botswana, right? And from there we had cemented MOUs, so formal partnerships with 3 of the universities, where we are now advocating for bridging the divide when it comes to issues of research, innovation, and development. We have the likes of St. George's University, which is now kind of like the leading top medical school in in America, and the one that has actually generated the most Botswana graduates by the doctors. And now we have a partnership with them where we're cementing kind of like grassroots solutions on issues of medicine, biomedical engineering, and so on. So it's absolutely incredible. We also have what's called the Young Mothers Support Network. And the Young Mothers so that's also a flagship project from Inspired Horizons, where in a nutshell, it's really about co-creating safe spaces for engagement for adolescent girls and young women between the age of 15 and 29, and who are especially young mothers. And these are young mothers from rural impoverished communities. This are by virtue of them being mothers, it means that they are exposed to certain STIs because they're already engaging in sexual activities. So it's about being aware of the kind of HIV combination prevention and treatment services. It's about making sure that we're including them into various leadership spaces, so that all these policies that deals with at them directly, so therefore are included in the decision-making processes. They're also included in the implementation processes. And most importantly, even with accountability, so that I think this is a way that we can really achieve, a high-income, knowledge-based society. And I think we're just doing our part with the Young Mother Support Network to ensure that.
Wonderful, because the Young Mother Support Network has been very active, and really I was going to ask you specifically about that. So it's an offshoot of Inspired Horizons.
Yeah, it's a project. Yes.
So it's a project.
Yes.
Yes. Oh wow! And would you say that the uptake has been commendable or has it been high for to date?
Yeah, it has been. You know, what's incredible is that when we first started, we had a vision of, say, I think about like after 3 years, we'll just look at 30 young mothers, right?
You like the number 30?
I do like the number 30. I don't know why I'm emphasizing it a lot. But it's incredible because right now we have 63 young mothers. And then we have what is called a support system. So a support system will be members of the community, stakeholders, or even institutions that are willing to support in terms of mentoring these young mothers, in terms of offering technical assistance for the administration of the program, in terms of just, you know, your basic even donations, but even, you know, offering insights. We have lawyers there, lobbyists, we have advocates as well who are really championing, because we have an advocacy agenda that looks at where we would like to be in the next 5 years.
Exactly, because I was going to ask, what is your vision for the Young Mothers Support Network?
I mean, my vision is to attain a culture of inclusive, you know, leadership, and by that it means that I would like to be in a place where if somebody was like, wow, you have an empowered young mother, then we'll be looking at different aspects, right? So I call it layering of the girl child, right? So we're looking at the component of, let's say, health. So if an empowered girl child is one that is able to have access to different health facilities. So if they want to have contraceptives, if they want to have family planning interventions, if they want to have, you know, HIV prevention services, if they want to know their HIV statuses, they know where to get it and they're not afraid to get it because of the stigma, right? And then there's an issue of education. So in as much as you have the health component, okay, but are you educated? You know, then we look at the protectionist mechanisms that will ensure that that girl child is educated. Do they have the necessary support structures to attain formal education? You know, are they aware that government has a back to school initiative? Once that you have been pregnant and you go and give birth, you can actually come back. Right? Are they having access to that? Tertiary institutions, we do facilitate scholarships opportunities as well as an arm of Inspired Horizons. So it's about, you know, can we, because of the partnerships we have, I mean, it's incredible, right? Can they have access to that? And then we also look at law enforcement, you know, because now you are educated and now you are healthy, are you meaningfully participating in terms of the country's nation building, right? Do you know your protection rights? Do you know the laws and policies that safeguard against you? So it's really about making sure that when somebody says, wow, you have an empowered girl child, they're looking at the biomedical, the structural, and the social interventions that we would have provided.
Wow. I like how Inspired Horizons Associations has a sort of holistic view with respect to the empowerment of the woman or the girl child. You mentioned aspects such as education, health, protection, and obviously societal integration. And getting whatever services they require without stigma. Because you know, stigma anyway, that's an issue that warrants a conversation of its own, you know.
And you know what, one thing that really is sad about it, so we're looking into creating the country's first ever docuseries for young mothers, right? And that would highlight the lived experiences of the young mothers, as well as kind of like the implementing partners, but as well as the service providers, right? And one thing that you'll notice is, for instance, we have young mothers who unfortunately they became mothers because they were raped. You know, they were violated. And when you get to understand their stories, you get to realize that there's a lot of capacity building that's needed. Just from the engagement of law enforcement. So there's certain kind of language use that automatically it's off-putting, right? There's also an issue of even when you want to go, you know, to weigh the child, or you want to go and vaccinate the child. You know, as a 17-year-old, you already have a baby. The nurse is looking at you some sort of way, like, what were you doing? Kind of thing, right? So we focus on highlighting those lived experiences, and then we do what's called a needs assessment through social and behavioral change communication to say, well, these are the targeted interventions that society needs to adhere to in order for them to respond much more aware to the needs of the AGYW, to be much more aware of the experiences and the ordeal and the trauma that comes with, you know, childbearing or child rearing at such a tender age. Yes. And then, you know, we're hoping that with many partnerships, and our doors are always open, we're hoping that with many partnerships we can really see this to fruition.
Absolutely. You know, because I was going to ask you, did mention the aspect of donations. We really believe that you are doing some amazing work for these young mothers. And so in terms of connecting with Inspired Horizons Association and the Young Mothers Support Network, how can you be reached? How can you be contacted?
Yeah, fantastic. So I think that's where
yes,
you know, I was like, this is where this is your opportunity. Yes,
exactly. Take it away.
I would say that, look, so on social media, Facebook, we have the page Inspired Horizons Association, and you'll see a lot of the work that we're doing with the Young Mother Support Network. We also have an opening for core beneficiaries. So the core beneficiaries will be any young mother who is interested in joining us. They can reach out to us. We have an incredible WhatsApp group that has all the young mothers there who are interacting on a daily. They've created a family there.
Wow.
So if you'd like to be a part of that WhatsApp group and you're a young mother, please do reach out to us. Second, we have what is called the support system.
Okay.
So the support system are any members of the community, including institutions, that would love to give back either their time, their resources, or funding, or technical expertise on how we can successfully, you know, implement and roll out the Young Mother Support Program. So again, is there, but you can also reach out 74796087. That's 74796087, or you can email Kaene Disepo, that's KDISEPO, .IHABW, that's Inspired Horizons Association Botswana, at gmail.com. KDisepo.IHABW@gmail.com.
Wow. Like I said, as we were speaking there, amazing work that you guys are doing, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of uptake in terms of support for what you're doing, because this is really something that's required in society.
Absolutely.
It's necessary and very commendable.
Thank you so much.
Kaene, let me thank you so much for being on Big Budget Business. It's been an honor and a privilege.
A long time coming.
It's been a long time coming, you know, because even back then in December when we first spoke and engaged, I saw the work that you were doing, and I felt it really needs to be amplified.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So we are with you on your journey, and we wish you the utmost best.
Thank you so much, Big Budget.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, don't touch that dial before you go anywhere. Just give us a few minutes for an ad break, and we will be back with our 2-minute tip. right, so our 2-minute tip for today, you know that we are very big on you as a young business owner having a strategy and business plan in place for whatever entity that you're running. So when you do have these business plans or strategies, always ensure that you have these 3 foundational strategic pillars. Now, your strategic pillars are simply, number 1, your mission. What is it that your business intends to do? Why do you exist? And what is it that you want to achieve? So state that in your mission. Number 2, your vision. Where do you see your organization? So you might set perhaps a medium term, maybe 5 years, or a long term 10-year plan. You might state that in your vision. And then number 3, your objectives. What are the specific aspects that your business intends to achieve? You need to list those in your business plan or in your strategy. So once again, your strategic pillars in your business plans and strategies are, number 1, your mission, number 2, your vision, and number 3, your objectives. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a wonderful show. As always, thank you so much for the support. We appreciate it. From me, BigBudget, and the team that makes it happen, Black Network, Moana Pictures, it's good night and God bless. And never forget that you were born for so much more.